All right. Well, welcome back to the Outdoor Drive podcast. This is episode what's this? 70 something or other? Perfect.
73.
No, we're past that.
I don't know.
This would
My
be
mind's so
74,
scattered right now.
75. You know what? It's
It's
there.
in the 70s.
Perfect. It's before 80 and after 70, so
Yeah.
we're there. Sweet, man. So it's your boy East Coast Trev, and
This is Steve.
what's up, Steve?
Chilling, man. Finally got some warm weather today. Some of that ice melted off. Just about right to go out and start looking. I'm getting antsy.
I know we got some rain last night. We on the south facing slopes there's no snow, which is perfect. And then you in between getting there from slope to slope, there's like knee high deep, well, not knee, but like shin high deep snow.
Just take your drag sled, go up, search the hill, get to the top, slide down, go up the next side.
Dude, what a pain in the ass. But it was fine. I mean, you can definitely, I still want the snow to be on the ground and kind of follow the tracks, right?
Yeah,
So you kind of
makes
see
it a
what's
little
going
easier.
on. But I didn't find nothing. We found a deadhead yesterday. Both the girls went with me, and we found a deadhead. So that was kind of cool, but
That's
it'll be nice to get
man.
out. You know what I'm really excited about, honestly, is this new thing that I got just like hanging around.
What is that?
This is the new Ridge Runner by Nor'easter Game Calls. This thing is badass. I'll tell you what, I'll rip it real quick. I'm still kind of playing around with it where you got to do it, but I think what I kind of got out of it was you got to hit the middle of the call.
Yeah,
that's what seemed to be right. So is that right? Because I was trying to play it like this, like put your palm here and play the top of it, and it works. But I think you really got to be right in the middle of it.
Yeah, to get that perfect sound bounce. The other thing that I noticed with the original is you play it light. Don't put pressure on it. I don't know if it played through on this one, but that's how the original was.
Yes and no. I mean, yes and no. So, I mean, you can push down on it, or you can do it light. But aluminum, it seems that any type of aluminum top turkey call that I've found, you have to, you got to definitely play it more light.
I'm excited, dude.
Me too, dude. They are badass. I really, really do like them. I went through and played around with every single one of them, conditioned the strikers for them and everything. So the ones that I have.
Beautiful.
So be kind of cool. Pumped about that. And then obviously we haven't decided on our series for our turkey pot calls just yet. But I will say, when they do release, it's going to be fucking good.
It's going to be popping.
It's going to be popping. So keep your eyes out for those. You guys can get over to nor'eastergamecalls.com, and we are going to do a giveaway on one or two of these here in the near future before the turkey season starts. So check them out, nor'eastergamecalls.com. And then speaking of giveaways, right now we have giveaways is up and live on both Facebook and Instagram for the Outdoor Drive Timber Tumbler tumbler. So if you guys want to win one of those, get on over to our Facebook page or Instagram page. And on the Facebook page, make sure that you're subscribed to YouTube. If you're not subscribed to YouTube, you cannot win for the Facebook side. So just make sure you go over and do that. So check them out, timbertumblers.com. Also,
well, real quick on that, in podcast land, this is dropping on the 4th. So what day do you want to say is our cutoff on that?
The 4th. No, I don't know. I really honestly haven't even made a date on it. I was just kind of letting it roll. But actually, now that you say that,
yeah, people are probably going, when do we know? So
correct.
Since this is dropping on the 4th, we'll say that gives you 3 days. We're going to pick a winner on the 7th.
Perfect. So the 7th. Perfect.
So 3 more days to get.
You're nicer than me because I was gonna give him the 5th. But no, just kidding. So you said the 7th. No, we'll save it till the 7th. So on the 7th we'll draw those. So make sure you get on over the social media and put those on there. I totally even forgot about that. I am so sorry. Darn it. Well, I'm scatterbrained. I just
Yeah.
get so excited about that stuff,
Well, it's been a little crazy
Behind
lately, so totally get it.
Absolutely. And speaking of, you guys, if you're listening to this podcast, you guys missed out on the virtual trade show by Wild Edge Inc. So you guys, there might be some sales still kicking around, and they are doing giveaways. So if you guys haven't already by now, go over and check them out. If not, you've missed out on that. So
Tough
Yeah.
shit.
it sucks for you. Also, we might as well just bang out all the sponsors because we were 3 out of 6 already
Go
on
for
the
it.
on the list here. So, Broadside Camo, broadsidecamo.com, the photorealism camouflage for the aerial hunter. Check them out. Use the promo code Outdoor Drive on that one, and then out on the limb MFG.com for all your platforms, camera arms, custom tree stands, fabrication for you as a hunter. So go and check him out. Matt Garris over at Out on the Limb. And then last but not least, Wicked and Twisted Bowstrings, wickedtwistedbowstrings.com. They have a new person in the shop. They made a huge announcement for that. So they've partnered up with somebody to help them make custom bowstrings. So go and check them out, wickedtwistedbowstrings.com, and get your custom bowstrings.
Damn, man, you're popping tonight.
Pretty sweet, bro.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of those. That's why.
So we'll just leave that there.
Fair enough.
Makes me focus a little bit better.
Cheers.
I feel. Cheers. We don't do a lot of that, but
Might as well tonight.
Yep. So, but other than that, man, I'm like super pumped about this coming up season because turkey season's pretty much getting close to underway by now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing some
Wait.
turkeys dying.
Is it just me or did turkey season just like creep up on us? Like deer season ended, it felt like forever. Now all of a sudden, here we are prepping our gear.
Oh, if you could see the inside of the studio right now, it looks like a turkey blew up inside here. Like there's just turkey shit everywhere. But I mean, I don't know. I'm just pumped because I think my first turkey hunting trip will be Virginia.
Yeah. We open a little bit before you.
Yeah. So that'll be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to that. And then that's where it all starts right there.
And then from there is just kind of wherever we end up.
I think Pennsylvania might even be on the list now.
Got my tag already. So
perfect. That's what we like to hear.
Why not?
And for those speaking tags, guys, just quick reminder, now that it's after the first of the year, you guys make sure that you get in on all of your lotteries for some of the states that have opened. Like, so I've gotten on my moose tag so far, and then kind of deciding on what other lotteries that I'm going to put in for. But my main moose tag is in. Probably Pennsylvania elk tag would probably be one of the ones that I'll put in for also.
Yep.
And whatever we're going to do for Idaho, that one will come shortly thereafter.
As soon as they would hurry up and open.
They haven't opened theirs yet.
No.
Which some states haven't, but just keep your eyes out. I don't want anybody missing out on that. I mean, I got to put in for my Iowa tag too to get my preference points down there. We're going to get that kicking off. I want to go and do that. So that's an important thing. So, but pay attention to that stuff. Good stuff. You know what I'm saying, Steve?
Yeah, man. There's nothing worse than realizing it's the last day of the draw.
Oh, don't want to be that guy.
You go, crap, I got to come up with the money, front the money, get the tags put in, make sure you do it right, and hope you get it in before midnight. In other words, your ass ain't got a chance.
Absolutely. No joke. No joke. Well, I think we should shift gears a little bit because this podcast is not even about hunting.
I know.
This is a fishing podcast.
We're going to flip it around on everyone.
It is going to be about offshore fishing, tuna fishing, maybe some inshore stuff. Depends what he wants to talk about, but there'll be a little mix of everything on this one.
Hell yeah. Well,
nothing better than that, right?
I'm going to go ahead and kick you back into neutral for just a second. And I need you to go ahead and crank up that old tape deck you still got. That old Civic.
All right, hold on.
Hey everyone, Mike here with some news for your cruise. We're going to start this one off in Minnesota, and with turkey season right around the corner, the Minnesota DNR now has something new for those interested in learning about turkey hunting. The DNR has actually put together a 2-part online turkey hunting class, and those videos are free and can be viewed anytime on the DNR website's turkey hunting page. So get over there and check those out before the season starts. Now off to Idaho, where the Department of Fish and Game is considering an elk hunt in the Camas National Wildlife Refuge, which currently does not allow any big game hunting. This is due to the elk herd causing significant agricultural damage. The proposal would allow anyone with an antlerless tag for Game Management Unit 63 to automatically be entered into the drawing for one of the 80 available access permits. If you do get drawn and do not want to hunt in that unit, you can say no, and they will draw another one. The 80 permits will be broken up into 8 access periods of 10 permits each, and there will be 2-week access periods each month from September to December. The Idaho Fish and Game Commission is expected to decide on the proposed hunt during their next meeting on March 18th. Now off to Wisconsin, which has just executed their first wolf hunting season since 2014. 27,000 hunters applied for tags for the short season, and 1,486 tags were issued to hunters. And the season was closed after only 3 days as hunters exceeded the harvest quota. The harvest quota for non-native hunters was 119 wolves, with tribes having 81 tags allocated as well. After 3 days, there had been 216 wolves taken in the non-native zones, which led to closure of the season. Now let's hit on some new records across the country. We'll start off back in Idaho, where 2020 saw a 15% increase in the sale of fishing licenses. With that came more than 24 catch and release state records being set, which was the most since they started keeping catch and release records back in 2016. There were also 6 new certified weight records in the state of Idaho, so quite a lot of new records there this year, with people spending more time in the outdoors with COVID going on. Now off to California, where Dave Burris has set the new California state record for black crappie. The fish was caught on February 17th and tipped the scales at 5 pounds, 5.44 ounces. Was 17 3/4 inches long and had a 16-inch girth. The fish, once certified, would replace the 46-year-old record of 4 pounds, 1 ounce. So congratulations to Dave on a great fish. And now let's head back east to New York and a couple of new whitetail records. The first is 27-year-old Dieter Herbert. On the afternoon of Halloween for 2020, Herbert had just shot a 130-inch class whitetail, and only minutes later heard another deer coming. It ended up being the new number 1 typical bow kill in New York, with a gross score of 197 4/8 and a net of 191 3/8 inches. The buck is actually the largest typical killed in New York by any method since 1939. So congrats on the buck of a lifetime. Pretty amazing. And then just 8 days later, on November 8th, Gulf War vet Philip Pless took the new state record non-typical archery buck, the 18-point drop tine buck, officially gross scored at 221 3/8 and netted 214 2/8, which was nearly 4 inches better than the previous record taken in 2011. So congrats to Philip, and thank you for your service, and what a banner year for New York bow hunters. So as always, if you have any news for me, some people have been sending some stuff along, which is great. reach out to me on Facebook at Mike Salter or bearded_bowhunter21 on Instagram. And with that, enjoy the rest of your ride.
There we go. Mike Salter, appreciate it, buddy. And congratulations on the little one. She is here, and welcome to the world, little one.
Absolutely. Got a new rider.
And there's nothing better than that. New hunting partner coming soon. So everyone, if you haven't already, reach out to Mike Salter, give him a little congratulations on the little one. So
For sure.
Well, man, what do you think, bud?
I think we ought to drop the outboard and get this puppy out in the water.
That was good. That was real good. I like that. That was good. I like it, Steve.
Well, we had all the nice little shifting and talking and backing up, and why not throw it out, get offshore.
Let's go. Let's get offshore.
Let's do it.
Nice shot. Here comes a shooter. Shooter. Big buck. Stacked.
All right, we're back with Captain Chris. What's up, man? How are you?
What's going on, guys? I'm great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hopefully we'll be able to have a little fun today, whether it's, charter stories or, a little bit of knowledge from offshore fishing, whether it's bluefin, marlin, swordfish, big eye, whatever you think people are into. We'll kind of drive the ship and see where it goes and have some fun.
Absolutely, man. So why don't we just do that? Why don't we turn this key in and like Steve would say, drop the outboard, and why don't you tell everyone who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
So my name is Chris Young. Sport fishing captain here in the Northeast. I've been fishing, the New England waters since I was old enough to carry a fishing pole. Pretty much, I grew up in the summers just riding my bike down to local watering holes here in Rhode Island, and then once you get old enough and get the opportunity to get offshore, once that offshore addiction kicks in, man, it's pretty heavy. It's tough to go back, once you get the tug of a giant bluefin on the line to go back in the freshwater. But, they both have their technical sides, but I just kind of took it and ran with the offshore and just developed a love for it. So I've been fishing the offshore waters of Rhode Island and all of New England for my whole life. More recently in the past, 10 years, really get into the offshore game, obviously, because it's expensive. You need to be stable, afford a boat, things of that nature to get out there. So this year we're running a 38-foot Jupiter center console with Trip 250s on it. We'll be offering everything from inshore, offshore fishing to the canyons, overnights, whatever everyone's looking for. But that's what we're doing this year. In the past, I've ran boats for big game sport fishing, and now we're kind of running all the charters under Otoro Sport Fishing. We also have a sister company, which is Ohana Charters. So, they're all pretty much different LLCs for different boats and different style fishing, whatever the customer wants to do. So, we're on the water over 100 days a year, and we do every trip you can imagine, from lighthouse tours, sitting around, just watch people eat cheese and drink wine, to your hardcore guy that wants to go out there and catch a bluefin tuna on a certain size test line.
That's awesome, man. So you're in the whole entire realm of everything when it comes to fishing.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, as a charter captain, you're pretty much, you're doing, you have your niches that you're good at, that you kind of, people get to know you for, and, they want to hire you for tournaments, and they want you to go out and, help them catch a certain type of fish. But then, at the end of the day, it's the customer driving the ship and whatever they want to do.
Now, how long have you been, obviously, how did this all start for you?
It started for me just kind of like I touched base on earlier. It's basically, just like a passion, just like anything, like hunting outdoors. You just develop that passion and that need to be outside, and, that drive of the hunt. And it's really hard to explain, but something about, getting up at 2 a.m. and getting down to the dock when, a lot of people are still stumbling around their dock partying from the night before, and you're going offshore and you're out there for 14, 15 hours just trying to make something happen. And, just the adrenaline rush and everything that goes into it, through the preparation, the lack of sleep, the camaraderie with your friends and, and your crew, and, the expression on the charter customer's face at the end of the day. I mean, there's so much that goes into it, but it's all just you just have to love it. And it's just, the passion of being out there and just kind of putting it all together and just making it happen for people is pretty much where it's all worth it.
So what was probably the first trip that kind of stuck that needle in your arm for you?
Let's set the hook.
Oh man. I would have to say I was in my early teens and I got to go offshore. This is when I first started to go offshore. I was driving my bike down to local beaches and just, surf casting and fishing for stripers and things like that. I got the opportunity to go offshore on one of my father's buddy's boats. So that's my dad was essentially who got me into it. He had a love for the outdoors and kind of passed it on and kind of taught me everything he knew. And then it kind of developed into what it is today. But the first opportunity I had, man, I got to go out on this old beat up lobster boat that was converted into a sport fishing boat, probably cruising 8 miles an hour the entire way out there. And we went out and we spent the night. And I just remember just being out there, and we set the baits out for the night and we're just kind of hanging out. It's 2 a.m, half asleep, waiting for something to happen. And next thing you know, one of these, Penn International 50 wide just starts dumping. And I get up, I grab the rod and it's slack and I'm just reeling as hard as I can, just trying to make the line come tight. And the next thing you know, man, this 4-foot mako shark was probably swimming 40 miles an hour straight at the boat. As soon as that line came tight, that mako just leapt out of the water. Literally, it felt like I could have reached out and grabbed it. And he just aired out of the water well over my head and literally splashed and just blew water all over me on the side of the boat. And then he spit the hook and he was gone, man. And just the experience of hooking a fish like that and then losing it that quick, and then just being able to physically see that in person, it raises the blood pressure a little bit, man. It's I don't know. It's pretty tough to explain.
It's like Sharknado in real life.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
So that's where it all starts, is shark fishing for you, huh?
Yeah. I mean, that, and that, just anything in general. I mean, that something like that, it's, it's, unless you've been there and experienced it, it's really hard to explain the adrenaline rush that comes with it. But then, after that, it was probably 4 years later when I, lost a bunch of big fish and lost a bunch of tuna, but I was out, again with my dad and his buddies, and we ended up landing a bluefin tuna that was 116 inches and fully dressed out at 780 pounds. And it was right in our local waters here in the mud hole off of Block Island. So, being able to hang that fish at 18 years old or whatever is a pretty good accomplishment. And then, just you're fighting a fish on a Penn International 130 class rod for an hour and a half. I mean, for 2.5 hours until we finally got a boat side and got a dart in it. So it's, just the camaraderie and the teamwork and actually being able to see a fish of that size in real life. It's pretty amazing. So, I'd say those two experiences are the ones that really stuck the needle in the arm.
Absolutely. And people just don't understand it. I mean, you could explain it 1,000,001 times what it's all about, but unless you actually experience, you'll never even understand. I mean, the words can't describe what happens offshore. I mean, just the life, the birds. I mean, there's just all of that all puts in perspective. The blue ocean, you want to see blue ocean, that's real blue ocean, because we don't get to see that in New England until you get further out, obviously. And then the life that's out there is just incredible. The fish, the dolphins, the whales. I mean, it's something else.
Yeah, the whole experience from going from pitch blackness and, just the moon lighting up the water and you're cruising, to go offshore, and then the sun slowly starts coming up, and it's literally the most beautiful sunrise you've ever seen. Uncut, no filter, no sorts of distraction in the way, just you and the sun coming up on the horizon. You see it come up on the water, and then you start seeing the signs of life, like you said, the birds and the blue water, and you see some bait moving, and it's just, there's no way to describe it other than actually being out there and doing it. For the people that haven't had the opportunity to get offshore, I know for a lot of people it might be sound a little sketchy, or you might get seasick and stuff. But if you think you can stomach it, man, I'd try and get out there, because you're gonna see some things otherwise you would never ever be able to see.
And guys like us take that stuff kind of for granted because we get to do it all the time and be out there, So you're just until you talk to someone else and you start saying something and they're like, really, that's really what goes on out there? Like, and they're like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
insane out there.
it is. It's crazy. It's literally, it's a different world. I mean, that's like the only way I can explain it. It's a different world. I mean, it's the biggest part of our globe, and it's majority of it is virtually unexplored and untouched. I mean, there's creatures down in the ocean that we've never even thought of investigating, and they're coming up and they're finding new ones every day. So it's definitely an experience.
It's kind of like I don't know. You obviously were probably there this year with the Ranger bite this year. It was like a straight aquarium. The amount of whales and bait that was there was just absolutely insane, and it
Yeah.
stuck there forever.
Yep. I mean, you get lucky. It's like every year is different. I mean, it's the same way for you guys in the woods, I'm sure. Every year is different, based on, movement patterns and things of that nature in the woods, but especially when you're out in the water, man, like between water temperatures and chlorophyll and bait, and there's so many things that go into it. Where the temperature break is going to be. Is it going to happen over structure? Is it going to happen where it's holding bait? Are there going to be whales there? Like, I mean, there's so much that goes into figuring out, but a lot of times if you get offshore enough and you have a network of guys there, you can get pretty good at dialing in like where stuff's going to happen, and where the life's going to be, and where things are going to go down, and sometimes it hangs out in the same spot for sometimes if you're catching bluefin tuna in 78-degree water when you're usually catching them in 58 to 62-degree water, so it's like every year is different, and you really don't know what's going to happen. It's just it's pretty wild.
So how do you go about finding fish? Like where do you start? Like what does it start for you? Like obviously temp breaks and stuff like that, but how do you go about finding those areas?
So to me, I mean, it starts in the off season, like your preparation and, getting like a good temperature chart or access to that. But a lot of it starts with just preparation of your tackle, just making sure, you service your rods and reels, making sure you have fresh leader material, making sure you change out the hooks and your split rings and your swivels and, and your boat servicing and everything like that. Just making sure you spend the time over the winter to dial everything in and just make sure everything's good to go. Because, I mean, there's so much time, effort, and money that go into it. When you hit the dock in the morning, it's like, it's easy just to get on the boat and be lazy and go. And, if that's how you want to go about it, and that's fun for you just to go out there, just to see different things and be out there and not really care if you catch fish. But if you're hardcore about catching fish, man, everything starts at the dock as far as getting everything dialed in. Because I don't know how many times, you've been driving offshore when I was first starting out fishing, and, you got your Penn International 80s and 50s just hanging out on the, on the rocket launchers, and you don't really have anything ready to go for casting and things of that nature. And you see a surface feed of fish, and all you have is your trolling rods ready. I mean, those fish could be up for a minute. By the time you get your giant spinning rods out, get your leaders tied, get your lures on there, and get ready to cast, those fish are gone. So, having everything ready to go and actually having everything prepared ahead of time for whatever you might see. I mean, when I head offshore, we have our offshore stuff ready to go for trolling. That's in the outrigger sitting there ready to go. But then we also have spinning rods ready for mahi. We have spinning rods ready for giant bluefin. We have spinning rods ready for your school-sized bluefin, everything in between. So if something does come up on the ride out there, you can capitalize on it and make it happen. So most of that stuff happens when you're leaving the dock, just to make sure, you're having a successful day. But as far as actually heading out there and what you're looking for, man, it's, again, every day is different, but 90% of the time when you're bluefin fishing, you're looking for, you're looking for bait, signs of bait on your sounder that you're seeing underneath the boat. And usually what's hinting you this bait down there to stop and kind of look for it is, any surface activity, if you see birds in the area, and humpback whales. I mean, if you're going out there looking for bluefin and you find a concentration of humpback whales, I mean, I literally can count in the amount of times I've been offshore. I think I've literally been out there twice and saw a large concentration of humpback whales with no signs of bluefin with them. They just didn't happen to be there. But 90% of the time, if you find a big concentration of humpbacks, there's going to be bluefin there, because those humpbacks are feeding on, your krill and your sand eels and different things of that nature, which your oceanic bluefish are then feeding on. And then you have your bluefin that need to eat so much food to keep themselves going. They're sitting there sucking down the sand eels. They're sitting there eating the bluefish and everything in between, whatever they can get on. So, if you find the whales, you're 90% of the time you're in the area, man, or you're not far off. They're around you.
So what temps are you looking for when you're in those travels for the bluefin? Do they stay in a certain temperature break?
I mean, generally for the bluefin, you're going to be in the 60s. You know, most of the time you're going to be in that mid 60s, or for Rhode Island, I should say. You know,
Mhm.
in south of Rhode Island. But when you get on the Cape, you know, the water temperature's freezing. It's in the high 50s, and there's bluefin there, and they stay there till December. Same thing up in Canada. You know, so but around here, most of the time, you know, it's in that early to mid 60-degree temperature. But like we had years where there were no fish came here, and we were driving 80 miles from Rhode Island to go all the way down off of New York, and these bluefin did not go past there, and they literally stayed there an entire season. And the last time we were going down there and catching bluefin, man, the water temperature was 80 something degrees, and it was clear blue. There were literally giant manta rays that were all over the place, and the bluefin were swimming around with the rays. And you know, it was like it's really hard to explain, but we're also in 200 feet of water, so you have to think those fish are going down on the bottom to 200 feet to cool themselves and regulate their temperatures, and then they're coming up to feed. But it was literally tropical. There were hammerheads swimming around, there were dusky sharks, you know, there were yellowfin mixed in, there were mahi, and you're still bluefin fishing because that's where they were, and they never moved. So, you know, as much as you want to say, you know, what typically happens, it's tough to call.
They're fish. They do just about anything that they want.
Yeah. And, you know, most of it is, it's, you know, it's amazing, but you think like there's bait everywhere around here. Why aren't there fish here? Why are they staying down there in that warm water? Well, there's obviously food there too.
Right.
You know, they need food. And if they have a concentration of food, unless they have it ingrained in their, you know, migratory patterns from over the years, or where they were born, or where their parents went, or where they migrated the year before, you know, they're going to stay with this food. They need to eat. They need to sustain themselves, and they're just going to gorge. Especially the big ones.
So what would be the temperatures for yellowfin compared to bluefin?
Again,
or would they be in the same areas, or are they?
They can be, yeah, for sure. You know, a lot of times you can get them together. I mean, most of the time you're going to catch your bluefin, and you're going to be in tighter to shore. I mean, I've caught my biggest, every one of my giant bluefin that I've caught has been within clear sight of land, you know. And then once you start getting off into that blue water, that the bluefin will definitely hang out in. But most of it is like water temperature and chlorophyll and things of that nature for the yellows. They like that really, really blue, pristine, clear, offshore, like true, you know, canyon shipping lane water that is bright blue. So most of the times, you know, your yellows, you're probably 70 plus degrees most of the time. You know, you start getting into your yellows, but it's really, you're just looking for that really clear blue, pristine water that they like to be in, they like to hunt in, and they're just accustomed to be it. And once you get in that murky water, most of the time it's going to be, you know, you're going to start getting into your bluefin and your sharks and things of that nature.
So what are the tactics different between bluefin and yellowfin?
It depends on how you want to target them. You know, I tell everyone, like, you get some guys and all they know and all they hear about is trolling for fish, and they go out there and they troll around all day, and they ask me, well, how'd you catch fish? Why'd you guys come back to the dock with fish today? And we didn't. I mean, well, what'd you do? Like, we trolled all day. I'm like, you're trolling all day and you're marking fish at 150, 100 feet, you know, is there a chance they'll rise up, you know, to get some sun or a feed and come up and hit your bars or your Joe shoots or whatever it is you're trolling behind the boat? Yeah, but most of the time you gotta present the bait to them and where they're feeding. If they're at 150 feet, there's a reason they're there. You know, you're gonna, whether it's water temperature and feeding, you know, you got to get the baits down to them. So it's any type of fishing, you got to present the bait properly. Bluefin fishing, you can usually get away with, you know, a little bit more of a well-rounded, you know, fishery. Like you can jig for them, you can chunk for them, you can live bait for them, which you can do with yellowfin too. But, you know, when you start talking about being 1,000 feet of water as opposed to 150 feet of water, it kind of opens up your range of, you know, different ways you can fish for them. So, you know, typically bluefin fishing will do everything from, you know, live squid, live mackerel, live bluefish, chunks. So you hand feeding them, you just kind of get them up under the boat on chunks of butterfish and things of that nature, or you know, dropping jigs, dropping ronsies, dropping, you know, Daiwa SK jigs down, Saltiga jigs, whatever it is to get it down there. But, you know, the biggest thing is just presenting your baits and whatever it is as similar to how they're currently feeding. You know, they do get in the zone and they want to just feed the way they're feeding, and if you can present it, for lack of a better term, matching the hatch. You want to be able to present the bait at the levels they're feeding at and how they're currently eating it. Otherwise, it, just kind of get shrugged off. And, as far as the yellowfin, most of the time our yellowfin, we do get lucky sometimes offshore, and you get your yellowfin to come up on top like you do, like down south. You see like the acres and acres of yellowfin tuna busting on top like you do in Panama. Very rarely do we get that size of, topwater feeds. I've seen it a couple times here, but most of the time you'll see some fish up on the surface for quick, topwater feeds with yellowfin and big eye. But most of the time, most of our offshore fishing is, trolling during the day. You're trolling at top, trying to get those, find those highly migratory fish to come up, and you're trying to find the temperature breaks and the weed lines and the pilot whales and things like that you find offshore in the canyon, and you want to troll around so you find the concentration of fish and then just keep pounding that area. So most of the canyon stuff's trolling related, unless it's nighttime, which is still a great time to troll for big eye, but that's a whole nother can of worms, for like trolling for big eye at night. But a lot of times people like to shut the boat down and, have some people get a little rest and set the baits out there for chunking and things of that nature at night. So there's a lot of similarities, but, a lot of times they're different. And, it's really tough to pinpoint which ways to go out there and target them until you get out there and kind of get a feeling for your surroundings and see, how those fish are feeding and what's going to be your best shot at getting them.
So you're talking about trolling, like, so what kind of things are you trolling, and like how would you set up your boat to troll? Like as far as like how many rods, what would you put down on each rod on the outriggers, so on and so forth?
Oh man. So a lot of that comes into just like one, the size boat you're running, two, the fish that you're trying to target. If you want to go out there and you're fishing in a tournament that's like marlin heavy and you really want to get some biltfish, you're going to troll differently than you are if you want to, catch yellowfin and albacore and things of that nature. So, it's really tough to call, but I'd say the majority of it is the type of boat you're fishing in and the size of it. And, that gives you the capabilities of how much room you have to put a spread out. So, if you're going out there and, a mid 30-foot center console, it's going to be way different than if you're fishing a 90-foot sport fish, so your spread's going to be different. But most of the time, we like to fish your combination of spreader bars, whether it's from Sterling Tactical or Carlson or, Elite or wherever you're getting your spreader bars from. So just different size spreader bars. You want to put the spreader bars out. If they're feeding on small sand eels, you want to have small squid bars, or small sand eel bars. You don't want to have massive squid and they're feeding on a small bait. It's just all trying to, make it as close as possible as what they're feeding on. So a lot of spreader bars, mix and match with different sizes until you figure out what they're hitting. We'll do Joe shoots, which are essentially basically like a weighted head with a skirt on it. So we're dressing those with our ballyhoo on them. So we have, which we call putting out the meat, basically. So you're putting like your jet heads out with your skirts, and you're tying ballyhoo on, and you're basically just rigging up a Joe shoot in the spread. We drop X wraps on spinning rods in the middle of the spread to get them down below everything, because they dive, 30 plus feet down. So you can kind of get you down a little bit deeper in the water column. And then, anything else you can mix and match throughout there, flippity floppities, which are just like, wiggly, like rubbers out there that, bounce around, have different action than the squid do. You can throw out, daisy chains. You can throw out, anything really, cedar plugs, whatever it is that you think is going to get the job done. I mean, until you find out what they're feeding on, I just try to mix and match. Usually typically on bright days, using bright colors, and on dark days, when it's cloudy and rainy or whatever, using dark colors. But, every day is different. You just try to troll around and figure it out until you find out kind of how they're feeding and what they're feeding on.
So when you are trolling, like what speeds are you trolling at? Say for like bluefin, yellowfin, stuff like.
Yeah. So if typically like, 5 to 7 knots, depending on how they're feeding and how you're trolling and what you're trolling, and sea conditions and wind conditions and weather and all that stuff, whether you're going into the current, you're going, away from the current, all that stuff comes into play. But typically, you're 5 to 7, 7.5 knots. And then once you start getting over that 7.5 knots, then you're kind of like, not specifically or exclusively trying to target them, but, your wahoo, they're going to feed on some sort of structure, weed line, or, a lot of times they like to hang on, but they'll also be out there in the open water. So if you just want to target like your wahoo or your marlin, you're typically going to have a faster, high speed troll where you're going to get up towards, 10 plus knots. and you're going to troll, and you're going to typically try to target them at higher speeds, just because they're fast and they're just apex super fast predators, and they like to hit stuff that's moving. That's how they like to do it. So
That's awesome. So on like your boat, how many rods do you run on the back of your boat?
Typically somewhere, depending on what like sea conditions, we'll typically do anywhere from like 8 to 12, depending on how we're. Yeah. We'll try to get as many out there as possible without creating a mess of a tangle fest out back, because nobody wants to deal with that. So if wind's pushing one way and tide's pushing another way, and it's trying to blow your bars across and catching the lines, it's just becomes a mess. So you kind of see what the sea conditions are going to let you do. And, the more you have out there and the more you have presented is obviously it's going to give you the more opportunities to try and hook up and make stuff happen, so you try to get as much out there as you can without being ridiculous and having stuff.
What happens when the havoc breaks out? Like, so what is the first thing that you're going to do?
Oh my God. So when like
I know that's a loaded question. I know that.
Yeah. So a lot of it depends. If we're out there fishing a tournament, everyone kind of knows their role and what they're going to do, because we've done it before and everyone's on the same page, and you have a game plan before you even get out there. So it's it pretty much just happens. If we're on a charter or whatever, you typically try to give everyone the rundown. So like once you get in the trolling spread, all right, guys, if this happens, this is what we want you to do. We want you to focus on getting the rest of the rods out. We want you to focus on getting the gaffs ready. We want you to fight the fish. You can have the belt ready for this person, and we're gonna drive. I'll drive the boat, and then the mate's gonna just kind of control the chaos as much as possible without something crazy happen. But typically when you're trolling offshore and a rod goes down, a lot of people think the first thing you want to do is, take the boat out of gear and start fighting the fish and go and run and get the rod. And when we're trolling offshore, a lot of times, fish travel in packs, especially when you're fishing in the canyons, for your yellowfin, your big eye, your albacore, things of that nature. But a lot of times you're going to get more than one strike at once. So once a rod goes down, just keep trolling. There's a lot of line on those rods, even the 50 wides, there's a lot of line on them. And there's a lot of backing on there, so just keep driving the boat at the same speed you hooked up on. I mean, if you're marlin trolling or something specific like that, or wahoo, and you're just going for those fish, you're going to want to slow the boat down pretty quick, because they have soft mouths, and you're going to want to, you can pull the hooks out and stuff. But if you're just trolling for tuna fishing, just keep the boat going the same speed, keep that line tight, let that line just keep going, let the drag keep dumping, and just troll for like another eighth of a mile, and just see if you can get another fish to come up in the spread and hit them. And then if it's only one fish, then you start slowly reeling in the other lines and getting them out of the way for the person fighting the fish, and just doing your best to do the dance and lift the rods under, over, get them around, whatever you can do not to tangle and get the line mixed up with whoever's fighting the fish. But the biggest thing is just communication, and just making sure everyone has a job and knows what they're going to do when it goes off.
What's one of the craziest things that ever happened to you when Sarad went down?
Oh man. So we were offshore fishing one time. We had it was a nice fish. It was probably like 150 pound bluefin, and we were fighting it for a little while. We get it up next to the boat. And it my dad's leadering the fish. My other buddy's fighting the fish. And you think the fish is done when you're leader in the fish, and the spreader bar is coming up towards the boat, and you get in, you figure you're getting ready for a gaff shot. So this fish, nice size fish, like I said, 150 pounds. And for people that don't know tuna fishing, like a fish of that size, it doesn't sound huge, but I mean, very strong. And if he wants to go one way and you're not paying attention, he's going to go that way, and he's going to take you with him. So my dad was the leader in the fish, and he was holding on to the spreader bar, and the fish took off and took one more run. And, he didn't have his center of gravity, and he didn't want to let go of the spreader bar, and he went in the water with the fish, and was hilarious, because he popped his head back up. I'm just making sure he's not tangled up in the line or something, He pops his head back up, and he's like, I'll just swim around, land the fish. Make sure you land the fish. I'll be fine. Just come back and get me. He's hanging on the transom of the boat, and we land the fish and get it. That was one pretty wild story. I mean, I've had a rod break while I was fighting the fish and come up and smoke me in between the eyes with the sunglasses and break. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, as far as when things happen like that, I mean, it's mayhem.
And it's crazy being offshore and something like that happening.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
And if and if something happens bad, I mean, you have to be pretty much well prepared for it too.
yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, when we go offshore, I mean, we have everything. We have a full first aid kit. I mean, my father's an EMT and he mates most of the time on the boat, so like we legit have enough to drop an IV and if we need to and get some fluid into someone. That's if he's in the boat and he's not swimming around the fish in the water.
Exactly.
Truth to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the safety things that you carry on the boat? Speaking of some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of giant like on our days off, we'll try and do some like giant fishing for commercial purposes. So a lot of we have to have certain regulations and specs, but you want to be as cautious as possible. I mean, you're going out literally in the middle of nowhere, and you're legit going to the edge of the earth. Like you're going to where the continental shelf drops off into the deep ocean and just keeps going until it's 5,000, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 feet. It just keeps going. So you're literally in the middle of nowhere. So I mean, there's really no price on caution and being safe and safety. So, we take everything, from we're, like this year we have our new boat that's coming in, new to us. It's not a new boat, but the 38-foot center console I was talking about. So we'll have a life raft on there. We'll have, Coast Guard certified, vests and jackets. And then we'll have survival suits, fire extinguishers, full first aid kit with enough to drop an IV, anything of that nature. And a raft, the raft that automatically deploys if something happens. So there's no price you can put on peace of mind.
No, and especially like in reach and stuff like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even touch on that. Yeah, we take that stuff with Garmin in reach and different types of EPIRBs and things of that nature that Coast Guard can get a hold of you and find you if they need to. So God forbid, you hope you're never in that situation, but I mean, all of us have been. If you're on the water enough, regardless of the time you put in the preparations, weather can change so fast. Things can get sketchy quick, even on the nicest days. And who knows? You have a boat issue. Like you never know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm a big believer in karma. Like if someone else is out there, man, you can help anyone out on the water on a given day. Do it because you're all out there together. You're all in it together. At the end of the day, everyone just has to make it back to the dock. That's the most important thing. So I mean, safety is definitely number one for sure.
And it's not even about if it's going to happen to you. It's about when it's going to happen to you out there. I mean, that's kind of one of those things. I mean, you're in the boat enough and you're out there enough that if it's not about if it's going to happen, it's about when it's going to happen to you.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, as much time and preparation that you put into it, eventually something's going to happen. I don't care if you're in a brand new boat. I mean, I had a situation where I was in a 53-foot sport fish, which everything safety wise you could ever imagine is on that boat. And, the boat had some work done and there were some oil pads that were left in the bottom of the boat that ended up getting clogged in the bilges. And the next thing you know, there's a decent amount of water down there and you're down there trying to figure it out. And until you can see what's going on, you think the worst, but so it's like, I mean, just being overly cautious and just putting your time in and just making sure everything's dialed in as much as possible. And it's tough too for guys that are on the water every day. Like you want to go out there and you want to make your money, you want to turn around and do as many trips as possible. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to make sure that stuff's dialed in because that's number one.
What is one of the craziest things that's happened to you out in the water?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Oh man. So
I know we all have them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you, this is a pretty good story. I have a couple, but so I was doing a charter on the 53-foot sport fish. We're getting ready to leave the dock for the day. And, when you're doing that many charters and, you're literally going from sleeping 4 hours and getting up and doing it all over again and pure exhaustion from doing that for 10 days in a row. I mean, it starts to get a little crazy. You start to I don't want to say hallucinate, but you start to get a little lack of sleep just catches up with you and you start to just get a little foggy. But so we had this group of customers that were coming down to the boat and we hadn't fished with them before. I had no idea who was coming. I mean, they paid for a shipping lane strip on a 53-foot boat, for 70 miles offshore. So, you assume they really want to get in there and they want to fish and they're pretty hardcore about it because it's not cheap. I mean, there are people that have money that just want to get out there and do what they want to do. But at the same time, most people booking trips offshore are either into it or, pretty hardcore about getting an experience out of it. So we're sitting there waiting at the dock, and this family comes down, and the two people that are kind of leading the charge down the dock are, an older man and a woman, and the wife is pushing her husband in a wheelchair. And so, which is fine. I mean, we try to accommodate everyone. We try to get him in and out of the boat if we can. And, yeah, especially. And on that size boat, and the dude's old too, man. He's not like a young buck. And, we try to take, anyone we can. If we can take service people out there and, wounded warriors, anything. We accommodate any way we can. But a lot of times, there's some sort of a heads up given, to us. But these two old people in their 70s, man, they came strutting down the dock like they were like going to go out there and go spear fishing. And she's pushing her husband in the wheelchair, and they get on the boat, and their two sons get on the boat. So it's four of them. So I help lift him up into the salon. He goes, the father's in there hanging out in the boat. I'm talking with the sons. So then, I'm like, ask the sons, well, you guys good to go? And they're like, yeah, we're good to go. So the family, they were immigrants from the Middle East, so their English for the parents was a little bit, was a little broken, and the kids have been here for years, So I was actually, as far as communication, it was fine with the kids, but for the parents, they just didn't speak very well. So when they would, have conversation with us, the kids would translate and things of that nature. So they didn't say anything to us. We get offshore, we get 70 miles out there, we start fishing. We literally put the lines in the water. We get two massive mahi up in the boat, ready to go. And I'm fishing by myself. I look around, the two kids are throwing up, puking. And, the wife's back inside the boat hanging out with her husband. I go in and check on them, and they're like, and I'm like, you guys want to go? And I'm like trying to talk to the kids, and they can't even get a word out because they're puking so hard. They can't even talk. They're like green, they're throwing up. So I'm like, all right. I go up top and tell the other captain, I'm like, I think we got to get out of here. We got to go back. I'm like, what do you mean? We just, I'm like, they're all sick. They said they want to go to Block Island and go fluke fishing. I'm like, all right. So I guess we turn around. So we turn around, right? And we're driving, we got to go like 50 miles back to Block Island now. So we're cruising back to go bottom fishing. Thought we were having an offshore tuna trip and, mahi trip, and that's how fast it changes. So we're going in to go fluke fishing now behind Block Island. About 20 miles into the cruise back to Block Island, I'm up top, on the flybridge now with the other captain. So the son comes up the stairs. He's like, hey, you mind stopping the boat? My dad's got to use the bathroom. And he's in the wheelchair, so they got to help him up to use the bathroom and things like that. So I'm like, yeah, no problem. And it's kind of rocky. So we stop. I'm hanging out. I was like, just come back up and let me know when you guys are good. And I'm hanging out in the flybridge, just chilling. 20 minutes go by, and I'm like, I wonder if I should go down there and check on him. And they're like, the other captain's like, yeah, just go see. Dude, I go down there. I open the salon door for the inside of the boat, and this old guy is literally standing there, hunched over, stock naked, with his shitty diaper on the floor in the salon, just covered in crap. And his wife has wet wipes and is wiping the front end, and his son's on the back, and they're just sitting there staring at me. And I'm like, just come up and get me when you guys are done. and we'll be good. So the son comes up, and I'm like, hey, are you guys good? And he's like, yeah, we're good. He's like, my father just can't wipe himself. I'm like, well, next time, I get it, but feel free to try and use the bathroom. Like, it's a big, expensive boat. Like, you don't want skid marks on the rug. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, what is going on? So he's like, all right, no, I get it. I appreciate it. And so I go and tell the guy that owns the boat, he's like, are you kidding me? He's like, that guy had his shitty diaper on my rug. Like, oh my God. So we start driving back in. We get to Block Island, we're fishing. So I help the father. I pick his wheelchair up, get him out there again. And he keeps trying to get me, help me lift him up so he can pee over the side of the boat. And every time he tries to go, he's like, I can't go. And 2 minutes later, lift me up again. So I'm asking the son, what's going on? He's like, oh, he's having he's like, I don't know. He just can't go. So we start driving in past Block Island, and the kid's like, we got to hurry up and get in. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, my father, he has a blockage and he can't urinate. He's in extreme pain. And I'm like, he's like, yeah, he had a stroke 3 months ago. I'm like, you're just telling us this now. He comes down the dock in a wheelchair. Your dad just had a stroke 3 months ago, and we're taking him to the shipping lanes to go tuna fishing. I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm all for giving someone experience, but like, give us a heads up, dude, so we know what's going on. Like, this dude's safety and getting you guys back to the dock on top of catching fish is the top priority. So to make a long story short, man, we get back to the dock and this dude has like, he's the rescue there taking him off, right? And this dude gets rushed in the ambulance, goes to the hospital. He turns out he's fine, but his wife stayed behind to make sure I cleaned the 2 mahi that I caught when they were throwing up to take him home with her, and sent her husband in the bus to the hospital by himself.
Wow. Wow.
That has to be the best charter story I've ever heard. And I've been charter fishing for a while.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for opening the salon door and going in and thinking you're going to go down to the bathroom and check on someone. Next thing you know, you see this like 7-year-old dude's ball bag dangling around his knees with shit on it. Like, I mean, you can see some stuff, man. I'm telling you. You can't even make it up. Like, you can't make it up.
No. I
guess
think you could make that up.
I've had to put people in timeout before, like on the boat. You tell them what to do, they don't listen. You tell them what to do again, and you're like on 5 days with no sleep, and you're like, dude, you got to go sit in the beanbag and tell you to get out. Like, I feel like you're like my 7-year-old niece right now, but you got to go sit in the beanbag and tell you to get out. And it was pretty funny. We were calling him Joe Dirt all day because the guy had a mean mullet. He was drinking Budweiser. He was hammered. He was screaming at me that my rods are breaking. My reels are broken. He's like, your reels are broken. I'm like, why are they broken? He's like, the bail doesn't flip over on its own. I'm like, yeah, they're offshore high-end fishing reels. You have to flip the bail yourself. So I had to put Joe Dirt in timeout and tell him to sit there and drink his Budweiser in the beanbag for a while. I mean, it's crazy. I've had absolute mayhem going on with giant mako sharks by the boat. We harpooned this like massive shark, and he literally took off, dude. And he was so big, the dart ball went underwater and vanished and never came up, like straight. Yeah, Jaws.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a big fish.
Yeah. I mean,
there's behind him.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on out there.
People just don't understand it.
It's something. And, you know, and that like brings me to another point too, is like, it's funny. So I like challenge everyone that like, if you want to go offshore fishing, like take your time, do your research, you know, find a captain that you think really is going to be good and fits the needs that you're looking to do. But if you're picking a good charter captain, I'm not making excuses for anyone. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but we try to be as personable as possible. And at the end of the day, our job is to go out there and catch you fish. And at the end of the day, we are entertainers. We're out there with you for whatever, 10 to 14 hours. So we're going to try and have as much fun with you guys as possible. But at the end of the day, you want to go out there, you want to have fun, you want to catch fish, and you want everyone to come back safe. So those are the top priorities. So when when they're telling you to listen or to do something, like you have to pay attention, because I mean, things can go haywire quick and something happens, you lose a fish, and that was your only shot to get a fish all day. Next thing you know, your captain's pissed off, kicking stuff and swearing because someone made a mistake because they didn't listen. But do as much research as possible, find out who's going to be able to do as close to what you want to do, and kind of get you out there. But when you go down to the dock in the morning and, you know, you have a salty captain who's a little grouchy, and you probably picked the right guy, because if he's sitting there, jumps out perky, like he just slept for 15 hours, one, he's probably on drugs, or two, he is like, you know, he hasn't fished at all this week or this month, and he's full of sleep. Like, I mean, it sounds crazy, but when you go on an offshore fishing trip, you're off there for 14 hours, you go back, you fish all day. By the time you get back to the dock, you clean the boat, you fillet the fish, you make sure all the gear's dialed in and changed out for the trip the next day. And, you know, and then you literally go home, you eat some food, and you're in bed, and you're getting up in another 3 hours, and then you're going out for a canyon overnight trip the next day, and then you're back and you have another canyon trip, and then you have a fluke trip and whatever. I mean, you can go 10, 12, 14 days if you have good weather windows when you're doing trips like that. And, you know, it wears on you. And like, you know, dudes get salty. I mean, it can be a grind and it'll wear on you. So it's like, when you're looking for a charter captain, man, if you find someone who's yelling at you, they're not yelling at you because you made a mistake. They're not grouchy because they're not enjoying or love what they do. They're just not there. It's like Jekyll and Hyde, man. They're gone. But that's pretty much when you know you picked the right guy.
You need that though, because go ahead, Steve.
No, you're good. I was just saying that makes sense. It makes honestly perfect sense.
you want that, because if you don't, like Chris just said, I mean, those guys have been out there. That's where Salty Captain came from. I mean, like the old salts. Look at those guys, how weathered they are, and because they're out there all the time doing the same exact thing every day.
That's what you're paying for. You're paying for their years of experience, what they've seen on the water. Everything. You pay for that salty, grouchy captain, and it's not even them being grouchy. It's just them. It's just who they are, and it's lack of sleep, and it's putting in all that time and effort and everything behind the scenes to go out there and catch you fish, the fish of a lifetime that you'll never forget. And part of that experience is meeting the personalities and the captains that put up with a lot of stuff every day on no sleep and work their ass off to try and make it happen for people every day.
And the other thing too is that they're doing it for your safety also, because shit can turn very quickly as far as safe, like shark fishing and tuna fishing and sword fishing and so on and so forth. Things can get crazy.
That's all. Number one, everyone's mind is safety. That's it. First and foremost, like any thought that comes into any captain's head that is good at what they do, that's the first thought, is first and foremost safety, and then it's fun, and then it's all right catching fish. But most of the time, fun and catching fish happen at the same time. But safety is always first and foremost. And it's funny too. You're strutting down the dock and you're on vacation. You go down and talk to the guy. It happens to me all the time. The guys like at the oyster bar, right where I keep my boat, and they come down. They have a couple cocktails. They're sitting there drinking their martini, coming down the dock, and they're nice tight Nantucket red shorts, and they're just like, "Hey, what's going on? How'd you guys do today? You catch fish?" I'm like, "Well, you see me filleting 10 fish here." So I think you answered your own question, one. And two, where'd we go fishing? What'd we do? Did we have fun? Yeah, and I'd love to sit here and have a long chat with you and shoot the shit. But like, I still got 2 or 3 hours work left to do before I go home and eat dinner and get up and do it all over again. So as much as I like to sit here and chat and sing Kumbayas, if you want to know where I caught fishing, if we had fun and all those details, feel free to book a charter.
Right, exactly.
Good call. I like it.
Yeah. It's so true.
Oh, it is. True. It's hilarious. And it's at the end of the day, it's all about fun. But it's like, if you see a salty captain of the dock that's doing trip after trip, and he's unless you see him in a beanbag on the boat, vegged out, drinking a beer or something, like just shy away until he's done doing his work.
Absolutely. So you guys offer inshore fishing trips also, not only offshore.
Yeah, we do everything. We'll do. It's fun and the kids and at the end of the day, it's getting the next generation of kids involved in the next, getting kids outside, especially with what's going on in the world right now. It's like getting kids outside and giving them something to do and giving them something to look forward to and some healthy hobbies as they get older. That's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So we do a lot of stuff with kids, and a lot of that stuff is like just getting the rods bent and giving them action, because the kids, they just want to go out there, they want action, they don't really care what they're doing. We'll go out there and catch a variety of bottom fish. You go out there and you take them scup fishing, sea bass fishing, and fluke fishing, and they catch whatever. They catch a skate and a dogfish, they're souped, and they get a dogfish thinking they got a shark, and they're all happy. So we do everything from that to and then your tourists who come in and they just want to take a boat ride and see some lighthouses. People want to see the windmills because it's right off of Block Island's the first offshore functioning wind farm, in the U.S. A lot of people like to see that. So whatever the customers want to do, we do it all. We do Newport Harbor cruises. People love to just go from Jamestown, Narragansett, Point Judith to Newport for the day and just do a cruise. Look at the mega yachts and the sailboats and things like that. That's actually my partner's favorite trip. The harbor cruises in Newport, man.
Why does he like them so much?
With bachelorette parties too.
Oh, those are good ones.
Okay.
Those are good ones.
Yeah. Sunset Newport harbor cruises with the bachelorette parties.
Those get crazy.
We got that dialed in.
Those get crazy.
Yeah, dude. We'll full service. We'll put on banana hammocks, whatever we need to do to keep them happy, dancing around. Full service here.
That could get good. So where can they find you, man?
So I fished for years with a bunch of different companies, which we've had obviously different types of social media, websites, things of that nature. But right now we have a website that's under construction for us. It's going to be brand new for the season for the new boat. But if you're on Instagram, which I'm sure pretty much all of you are, you can go to Otoro, OTORO_ and sport fishing. And that's our Instagram to kind of see what we do and the type of fish we catch. And for anyone who doesn't know what Otoro is, it's basically the most prized cut of belly meat in the bluefin tuna, which is essentially, I mean, it's like the gold in the tuna's belly that everybody wants. It's the fattiest. So when you're eating bluefin tuna, it gets more expensive the more fat content it has in it, because it just has the better taste, and it's just like any type of meat really. So it's just the prime cut of meat from the bluefin tuna belly. So that's what goes for the big money over in Japan on the sushi market, is the otoro, or the belly meat. So that's our Instagram. Also, same thing on Facebook, and the website will be the same thing. The website will be Otoro Sport Fishing. But we do most of our stuff through Instagram. We have a big following and a big influence on Instagram. I think we have over 8,000 followers now on Instagram that kind of keep track of us and see what we do and what kind of fish we're getting on a daily and weekly basis. So yeah, Otoro_ sport fishing.
Nice. I think that's the first time we've ever had somebody drop an Instagram name and give an educational session at the same time.
Like I said, full service.
I'm telling you. I mean, as long as the cover art isn't a banana hammock, I think people are sold. Or maybe not.
That's what you're going to be looking for.
It all depends.
Yep. Depends who the customers are.
Well, sounds like you've had your share of depend situations, so we won't go too deep into that one.
Touche.
So, man, I do have one last question, and we ask everybody this, is what drives you outdoors? So what gets you out there on the water?
I just think it's, for the love of it, one, and, just like, for me, it's like peace and meditation. Like when I'm offshore and can't see land and there's no cars around, there's nobody honking, your cell phone's not ringing, like, you don't have to worry about anything on land. You don't have to worry about checking your email. You don't have to worry about who's calling you or who's texting you. You just go out there and you can leave everything behind. And it's just peaceful. To me, there's no better feeling in the world than that. And just being out there in the middle of nowhere with nobody else around, and you are just relaxing, doing what you love, and doing it with the people you want to be with,
Absolutely.
For sure.
Is there anything you want to leave everybody with?
No, I mean, not unless you guys have any more questions, whatever. I think we had a nice little combination of some tactics with some fun stories and kind of preparation and things of that nature. But the biggest thing I tell everyone is just have fun. And if you're trying to get into offshore fishing, what I'm telling you and the things I gave you, they're not the right way. They're just the way I do it. So I tell everyone, if you're learning and you want to get into offshore fishing, take what you learned from me. Take what you learned from another captain, and then you combine all that with your personal experience of being out there, and you develop your own program and what's going to make you successful and what's going to help you out there. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just, putting what works for people that have done it for a long time in with your new program, and you get it dialed in, you go out there and have fun, but just make sure you're learning out there every time you go, and just try to have fun. But don't be afraid to reach out to a local captain to help you along. And I mean, because most of the time you might feel bad or reaching out to someone and asking, opinions and things of that nature if you're not paying them to do something. But most of the time, all of us are good dudes, and we're looking to help out and, give back to the industry that's given so much to us. And if we can help the next generation or, get more people out there and help our industry strive, that's what it's all about. So yeah, just keep learning out there.
Outstanding. I mean, that's one way to drop the mic, or in this case, drop an anchor.
Exactly.
So,
no doubt.
With that, I think we'll just go ahead and wrap this sucker up. It was nice having you on. Thank you for the time and for jumping on with us. I know everybody's going to appreciate this one. So, can't thank you enough. Absolutely.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And, hopefully we can get some of you land-loving hunters out there in the middle of the ocean to hunt the new species.
Nothing else, you'll get a laugh when it does happen. Trust me.
Perfect. Let's do it.
All right. So everybody, make sure you follow along, check them out. And if you're interested, hook them up and go out on one of these maiden voyages, I think is a safe way to call it.
Keep your diapers at home.
Touche. And with that, we'll thank you guys for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.